"Call whoever you want," he said, laughing like power had made him untouchable. But the moment Emily Parker dialed that number, the room changed before the man on the other end even said his name. Maybe you know what it feels like to be trapped by someone who signs your paycheck. To smile when your stomach is tight. To stay quiet because rent is due, family is counting on you, and walking away sounds brave only to people who can afford it. Tonight, inside a locked office above a luxury Chicago steakhouse, one exhausted waitress will learn that silence is not surrender. Sometimes it is a woman waiting for the one moment that makes every cruel man regret underestimating her. Watch this story until the end. Like the video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Before that phone call made Grant Whitmore forget how to breathe. Before Dante Russo's name turned a locked office into a confession booth, Emily Parker was just another woman trying to survive a city that charged interest on every mistake. She almost did not walk into the Silver Lark the morning she applied. It was raining in Chicago, the kind of rain that made the sidewalks shine like black glass and turned every taxi headlight into a smear of gold. Emily stood under the narrow awning across the street with her coat pulled tight around her body, watching people move through the restaurant doors as if they belonged to a different version of life. Men in tailored suits. Women with clean hair and expensive handbags. Couples laughing under umbrellas that did not bend in the wind. The Silver Lark sat on a corner near the river. All tall windows, warm light, polished brass, and dark wood. Even from outside, it looked expensive enough to make a person check the balance in their account before touching the door handle. Emily checked hers anyway. $38.17. She locked her phone before the number could hurt her again. Across the street inside the restaurant, a hostess smiled at someone like smiling was part of the architecture. A waiter in a white shirt carried a tray of crystal glasses past the window. Somewhere behind those windows, people were paying more for dinner than Emily had spent on groceries all week. She almost turned around. Not because she was afraid of work. Work had never frightened her. Emily had been working since she was 16, first folding clothes at a discount store in Cicero, then pouring coffee at dawn for construction crews, then serving tables until her feet blistered and healed and blistered again. Work was honest. Work was simple. You gave the day your body, and at the end the day gave you enough to keep going. At least that was what work was supposed to be. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from her younger brother, Noah. "Mom says she's fine, but the pharmacy called again. I can pick it up after class if you can send the difference." Emily stared at the message for a long moment. Rain tapped against the awning above her. A bus hissed to a stop nearby. The city moved around her impatient and alive with no interest in whether she could keep up. She typed back with cold fingers. "I've got it. Focus on school." She did not have it. That was the thing about being the responsible one. You said you had it before you knew where it would come from. You said it because people needed to sleep. You said it because panic traveled faster through a family than truth. Emily put the phone away, crossed the street, and walked into the Silver Lark. Warmth hit her first. Then the smell of seared meat, lemon oil, fresh bread, and money. Real money had a smell in places like that. It lived in polished floors and quiet music in wine bottles turned carefully toward guests, in the way no one raised their voice because they had never needed to. A woman at the host stand looked up. "Can I help you?" Emily smoothed one hand over her coat. "I'm here for the server interview." The woman's expression changed just enough to let Emily know she had been measured and placed somewhere lower than the guests. "Claire is expecting you. One moment." Emily stood near the entrance, careful not to drip rainwater on the floor. She caught her reflection in the dark window beside the bar. Brown hair pinned back. Dark circles under hazel eyes. Black slacks she had ironed twice. White blouse with a collar that refused to sit flat no matter what she did. She looked tired. She lifted her chin until tired looked like focus. Claire Bennett came out from a hallway near the kitchen. Mid-30s, clean blonde bob, slim black dress, tablet in hand. Her smile was pleasant professional and already moving on to the next task. "Emily Parker, Yes, come with me. The interview lasted 12 minutes. Claire asked about experience. Emily answered clearly. Diners, hotel banquets, lunch service, late dinner rush, private events, wine basics, allergy protocols. Claire asked if she could handle difficult guests. Emily said yes because difficult guests were mostly just lonely people, drunk people, powerful people, or some combination of the three. Claire liked that answer. Then came the paperwork. It is a contractor agreement, Claire said, sliding the packet across the small office table. You are paid through service allocation and shift compensation. Tips are processed through the house system. Schedules are flexible based on business needs. Emily read the first page. Contractor. No benefits. No guaranteed hours. No overtime protection the way an employee might expect. The words sat on the page like small closed doors. Claire watched her read with the expression of someone who had seen this hesitation many times and knew desperation usually won. Is there a problem? Emily thought of her mother's insulin. Noah's tuition. The landlord's envelope taped to her apartment door that morning. Her car sitting behind the building with a brake light that blinked like a warning every time she pressed the pedal. No, Emily said. She signed. Claire took the packet back and tapped the pages into a neat stack. Can you start Friday? Emily gave her the calmest smile she had. I can start tonight. Claire paused, then laughed softly. Eager. I like that. Emily did not tell her eagerness had nothing to do with it. She started that night. By 5 o'clock, she had changed into the house uniform, a white shirt, black trousers, black apron, hair pinned tight. By 5:30, she knew the table numbers. By 6, she had memorized the specials. By 7:15, she had already saved a birthday dinner from going cold because a runner took plates to the wrong section. She was good. That was never the problem. Emily knew how to move through a dining room without becoming the center of it. She could hear the difference between a guest asking for water because they wanted water and a guest asking because they wanted attention. She knew when to smile and when to disappear. She knew how to place a steak knife without making it feel like a weapon, and how to apologize for a kitchen delay without throwing the kitchen under the bus. The kitchen noticed first. The line cooks noticed everything. They noticed servers who blamed them, servers who forgot seat numbers, servers who touched hot plates and dropped them because they wanted to look fast instead of be useful. Emily did none of that. On her third shift, the head cook Manny set a side of fries near the pass and nodded toward her. Eat before you fall over. I'm fine. You're lying. She ate 3 fries in the service hallway standing up. On her 5th shift, Rosa Delgado, the bartender, slid an iced coffee toward her without being asked. Black, right? Emily blinked. How did you know? You look like cream would slow you down. Emily smiled for the first time that evening. By the second week, regulars began asking for her section. Mr. Kavanaugh, a retired judge with a hearing aid and a habit of pretending he did not need it, asked for the young lady who does not shout at me like I'm already dead. A pair of sisters from the Gold Coast requested her because she remembered one of them hated cilantro. A group of attorneys began leaving better tips when she served them because she kept their drinks full and their arguments private. Claire noticed. So did the other servers. Some were friendly, some were not. That was restaurant life. Respect came slowly and left quickly. Emily did not need everyone to like her. She needed hours. She needed money. She needed to go home tired enough to sleep and wake up with enough in her account to keep the lights on. For 3 weeks, she almost believed she had found something stable. Then Grant Whitmore noticed her. He moved through the Silver Lark like the restaurant was not a business, but an extension of his body. He did not rush. He did not carry plates. He did not greet every guest. He simply appeared where people could see him and let them understand that the room belonged to him. Grant was handsome in a way that depended on lighting and confidence. Tall enough. Fit enough. Silver, beginning at his temple's expensive watch at his wrist white shirts tailored to suggest discipline, while his loosened collars suggested charm. He had the easy smile of a man who had learned women were often punished for not smiling back. Emily saw him several times before he spoke to her. She felt him before that. A pause at the edge of her section. A glance that lasted longer than a glance. The sensation of being evaluated not as a worker, but as something that might be acquired. She was clearing a foretop near the front windows when his voice came from behind her. "You're new." Emily turned with 2 plates balanced on one forearm. "Yes, sir." "Emily Parker." "I know." He smiled. The words were simple. The way he said them was not. "You're doing well," he said. "Thank you. Guests like you. I'm glad. I like staff who make guests feel seen." Emily held the plate steady. "That's the job." Grant's smile widened slightly. Not everyone understands the job. He reached out and touched her shoulder. It was not dramatic. Not enough for anyone across the room to notice. Just his hand resting there warm and possessive as if he had placed a claim on a surface. Emily stepped back under the natural excuse of turning toward the kitchen. "I should get these to dish." His hand fell away. His smile did not. "Of course." She walked to the kitchen with the plates. Behind the swinging door, Manny looked up from the line. "You good?" Emily placed the plates in the dish area. "Yes." Manny watched her for half a second longer, then went back to work. Emily told herself it was nothing. Owners touched shoulders. Managers hovered. Powerful men often confused friendliness with contact because no one corrected them. She had worked too many places to treat every uncomfortable moment like a crisis. But the body keeps better records than the mind. After that, she always knew where Grant was. When he entered the dining room, something in her back tightened. When he laughed with guests near the bar, her hands moved more carefully. When his office door opened near closing, she found a reason to be somewhere else. Marlene Hayes noticed. Marlene had worked at the Silver Lark for 6 years. She was in her late 40s with sharp cheekbones, tired eyes, and the kind of calm that came from having survived many things without announcing any of them. She trained new servers when Claire was too busy. She knew which table rocked on the back patio and which regulars tipped in cash if you brought the check before dessert. She also knew when to stop talking because walls in restaurants were never just walls. One afternoon, while they folded napkins in the staff room before dinner service, Marlene said without looking up, "Don't stay alone with Grant." Emily's hands paused. The fluorescent light above them buzzed. Someone's locker hung open. From the kitchen came the sound of metal pans being stacked. Emily kept her voice even. "Why?" Marlene folded another napkin into a clean triangle. "Because men like him don't ask twice, unless they already know you can't afford to say no." Emily looked at her. Marlene finally looked back. There was no drama in her face. No gossip. No pleasure in being the one to warn her. Only fatigue. "Has he done something?" Emily asked. Marlene's mouth tightened. "He does small things first. Compliments, schedule favors, private feedback. Then if you refuse suddenly, your best shifts disappear and everyone starts hearing you have an attitude." Emily felt something cold move through her. "Did you report it?" Marlene gave a small laugh with no humor in it. "To who, Claire? Who needs this job?" "Corporate, which is Grant and 2 investors from Lake Forest Police, because a man touched my shoulder and smiled too long." Emily said nothing. Marlene placed the folded napkin on the stack. "Just be careful." Emily wanted to ask more. She wanted names, dates, proof, a clear map of the danger. But the staff room door opened and 2 servers came in arguing about side work. Marlene picked up the stack of napkins and left. The warning stayed. Grant's attention grew slowly with the patience of rot under fresh paint. He complimented her in front of guests. "Emily is one of our best." Then, when no one was close enough to hear, he lowered his voice. "You make this place look better." She kept her replies short. "Thank you. Glad to help. I should check my tables." The first time he asked her to stay after closing, she was counting receipts at the server station. "Come to my office when you cash out," he said. "I want to go over some feedback." "What kind of feedback?" His eyes moved over her face, the helpful kind. Emily smiled politely. Can it wait until tomorrow? I have to get home. His expression stayed pleasant. Of course. The next schedule came out 2 days later. Her Saturday dinner shift was gone. At first, she assumed it was a mistake. She checked the posted sheet 3 times, then refreshed the scheduling app until her screen dimmed. Saturday dinner had become Tuesday lunch. Friday closing had become Sunday early brunch. The difference was not small. Saturday dinner at the Silver Lark meant business cards, private booths, whiskey, wine, and tips from men who rounded up because they wanted to look generous. Tuesday lunch meant Cobb salads, iced tea, split checks, and people who had meetings in 40 minutes. Emily found Claire in the back office. Can I ask about the schedule? Claire did not look up from the tablet. What about it? My Saturday dinner was changed. Operational needs. I've been doing well on Saturdays. Yes. Emily waited. Claire tapped something on the screen. Then why was I moved? Claire's shoulders rose and fell. Grant reviews premium shift assignments. There it was. Not hidden. Not spoken directly either. Emily's throat tightened. I need those hours. Claire finally looked at her. For a moment, something almost human passed through her face. I know. That was all. Emily went home that night with $22 in tips and a headache behind her eyes. Her apartment was in Pilsen, 3rd floor, narrow stairs, radiator heat that clanged like it was angry to be alive. The kitchen light flickered when the refrigerator kicked on. The window above the sink stuck halfway open in winter and refused to open at all in summer. She put her bag on the chair by the door and removed her shoes slowly because her feet hurt too much to rush. On the table sat a stack of mail she already knew was bad. Electric bill, rent notice, pharmacy reminder. She opened the pharmacy notice first. Her mother's medication had gone up again. Emily stared at the amount until the numbers blurred. Her mother, Linda, lived 15 minutes away in an apartment that always smelled like lavender cleaner and old photographs. She had worked 30 years as a school secretary before illness made her body unreliable. She hated needing help. Emily hated that her mother hated it. So they performed kindness for each other. Linda pretended not to need too much. Emily pretended giving it did not cost too much. The phone rang. Emily answered before the second ring. Hey, Mom. You sound tired. I'm a waitress. That's my natural voice. Linda laughed softly, then coughed. Emily closed her eyes. Did you pick up your prescription? Tomorrow. Mom. I said tomorrow. Is it the copay? A pause. That pause had raised Emily more than any lullaby. It was the sound adults made when they were deciding how much truth a child could carry. Except Emily was not a child anymore, and the truth had been in her hands for years. Linda said, It is just a little higher than last time. I'll send it. No, Emily, you have rent. I said I'll send it. Another silence. Then Linda said, You cannot hold all of us together with your bare hands. Emily looked at the bills on the table. I have pretty strong hands. Linda made a sound that was almost a laugh and almost a sob. After they hung up, Emily sat in the kitchen and did the math. Rent, medication, train pass, groceries, Noah's tuition gap, minimum payment on the credit card she used when her mother's insurance lapsed. The numbers did not care how tired she was. The next week, Grant asked again. This time, he approached her near the wine room after service when the dining room had thinned and the remaining guests were deep into after-dinner drinks. My office, he said. 5 minutes. Emily held a tray against her hip. For what? He smiled like her caution amused him. You always this suspicious. I like to know why I'm being asked to stay after my shift. Feedback. I prefer feedback during scheduled hours. Grant leaned slightly closer. Not enough to touch. Enough to make her aware of the wall behind her. You know Emily. Opportunity comes to people who understand relationships. She looked at him directly. I understand work. His eyes changed, only for a second. Then the smile returned. Go home then. She did. The next paycheck had a deduction. $35. The payroll note said service adjustment. Emily went to Claire. What is this? Claire looked at the screen. A service adjustment. What does that mean? It is applied at management discretion. For what? Claire pressed her lips together. Service concerns. I have not received a warning. The adjustment is the warning. That is not how warnings work. Claire said nothing. Emily stood in the office doorway feeling the shape of the trap. Can I appeal it? You can submit a written note. To who? Claire looked at her. Emily almost laughed. Instead, she said, "Thank you." She went home and opened a blue folder. At first, the folder had been for practical things. Pay stubs, schedules, receipts, rent notices. Then it became something else. She printed the schedule where her Saturday shift disappeared. She printed the pay stub with the deduction. She wrote down the dates Grant asked her to stay late. She wrote down what he said as accurately as she could remember it. She did not know yet what the folder was for, only that keeping records made her feel less crazy. By the end of the month, the $35 deduction became $70, then $120. Her best shifts kept disappearing. The regulars who liked her were seated elsewhere. A table she had served for weeks was quietly moved to another server after she greeted them. The host apologized with her eyes, but not her mouth. Grant began correcting her in public. A wine glass, half an inch out of place. A napkin fold, he said, looked sloppy. A tone, he said, sounded cold, though the guests had smiled and thanked her. He never yelled. That would have been too easy to name. Grant knew how to make cruelty look like management. One Thursday evening, he stopped beside her section while she was pouring water for a couple celebrating their anniversary. "Emily," he said loud enough for the table to hear, "try not to hover. Guests come here to relax." The wife looked uncomfortable. Emily lowered the water pitcher. Of course. She walked back to the server station with her face calm and her pulse pounding in her ears. Rosa was there slicing lemons. "He's doing it on purpose," Rosa said quietly. Emily reached for a clean tray. "I know. You should leave." Emily looked at her. Rosa sighed. "I know, money. That was the whole ugly prayer of working people. I know, money." Emily applied for other jobs during breaks. A hotel downtown wanted open availability and paid less. A diner near her apartment could offer 20 hours a week. A catering company said they would keep her on file, which meant nothing. Every door opened just enough to show her there was no room inside. So she kept going back. At night, she lay in bed and listened to the radiator knock against the wall. Her phone glowed on the pillow beside her, full of things she could not answer yet. Noah asking if she needed help. Her mother asking if she was eating. Claire sending schedule changes. The bank warning her balance was low. Sometimes Emily imagined quitting. Not politely, not with a letter, just walking into the Silver Lark, placing the apron on Grant's desk and leaving while he watched. The fantasy always ended at the same place. Rent, medication, tuition, food. She would open her eyes and stare at the ceiling until morning. In the 5th week, she filed a complaint. She wrote it carefully without emotion because emotion could be used against her. Dates, times, pay deductions, private meeting requests, shift changes after refusals, public corrections without cause. She sent it to Claire and copied the general HR email listed in her contractor packet. An automated reply arrived within seconds. "Thank you for your message. A member of our team will review your concern." No one did. 3 days later, Grant walked by her near the bar and said softly without stopping, "Careful, Emily." Paper cuts both ways. She kept walking. That night she threw up in the bathroom before service. Marlene found her rinsing her mouth at the sink. "You filed something," Marlene said. Emily looked at her in the mirror. "Yes." Marlene's face tightened with something like grief. "Keep copies." "I do. Keep them somewhere outside your apartment, too." Emily turned. Marlene lowered her voice. "I'm not trying to scare you." "You are." "Yes," Marlene said, "I am." Emily sent copies of everything to a new email account that night. She did it at the kitchen table while rain ticked against the window and her upstairs neighbor's television murmured through the ceiling. The next morning, she called a labor attorney. The office was above a laundromat in Logan Square, up a narrow flight of stairs that smelled like detergent and old carpet. The attorney was a woman named Denise Calder, with gray hair pulled into a bun and reading glasses on a chain. Denise listened without interrupting. That alone nearly undid Emily. When Emily finished, Denise looked through the printed documents and leaned back. "You are doing the right thing by documenting." Emily felt a small fragile lift in her chest, but she asked. Denise's mouth softened. "But he has money. You are classified as a contractor, which complicates some claims. Not impossible, but complicated. Wage withholding is serious if we can prove it. Harassment is serious if we can establish a pattern. Retaliation is serious if we can tie the schedule changes and deductions to your refusals and complaint." Emily nodded. "How long?" Denise looked at her for too long. Emily understood before she answered. "Months," Denise said, "maybe longer." "How much?" Denise folded her hands. The number was not cruel. It was simply impossible. Emily thanked her. Denise walked her to the door. "Miss Parker." Emily turned. "Keep records. Do not meet him alone if you can avoid it. And if you ever feel physically unsafe, leave first and figure out the rest later." Emily nodded. Outside, the city was gray and wet. Below the office, washing machines turned behind fogged glass, other people's clothes spinning in circles, trapped and moving at the same time. Emily stood at the bus stop for 20 minutes. When the bus came, she almost did not get on. Not because she had somewhere else to go, but because for one strange second going anywhere felt like choosing wrong. Then her phone buzzed. "Noah, got an A on my anatomy exam." Mom cried, "Don't tell her I told you." Emily smiled despite everything. She got on the bus and went to work. That evening, Grant was in the dining room. He wore a navy suit and a pale shirt open at the throat. He was laughing with two men near the bar, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a glass of whiskey. To anyone watching, he looked like success. Clean, warm, untouchable. Emily tied her apron in the staff room. Marlene stood beside her applying lipstick in a small cracked mirror. "You okay?" Emily pulled the knot tight. "Number." Marlene looked at her. Emily met her eyes in the mirror. "But I'm here." Marlene put the lipstick away. Sometimes that's all the strength a person has. Emily walked onto the floor. Service began. The restaurant filled with voices and candlelight. Knives touched plates. Wine poured red into crystal. Men laughed too loudly at things that were not funny. Women smiled at things they did not enjoy. Deals were made. Birthdays toasted. Engagement rings flashed under warm light. Emily moved through all of it. She smiled. She served. She remembered the gluten allergy at table 12 and the extra lemon at table 6. She brought a fresh napkin to a woman who spilled sauce on her dress and made her laugh before embarrassment could settle. She carried plates that burned her fingers and never flinched where guests could see. Grant watched from the edge of the room. She felt him, but she did not look. At the end of the night, after the last guests left and the staff began turning down the room, Emily found a small envelope in her locker. Inside was her updated schedule. Tuesday lunch, Wednesday lunch, Sunday brunch. No dinner shifts. No private events. No premium tables. She stood there holding the paper while the staff room emptied around her. Rosa saw it and cursed under her breath. Marlene closed her locker slowly. Emily folded the schedule and put it in her bag. No one said anything because everything true was too heavy for the room. At home, Emily took out the blue folder. She added the schedule. She added the pay stub. She added a note about Grant's comment near the bar. Then she sat very still staring at the thickening stack of paper. Proof did not pay rent. Proof did not fill prescriptions. Proof did not stop a powerful man from smiling at you across a dining room while he took pieces of your life small enough that no one else had to call it violence. Her hand went to the back pocket of the folder, though there was nothing there yet except receipts and old notices. She did not know then that 1 month later a black card would rest in that same pocket. She only knew she was tired in a way sleep could not fix. The following week, Grant made his third private request. It happened after closing on a Wednesday. The dining room was almost empty. Rosa was polishing glasses behind the bar. Manny had already killed the heat on the grill. Rain moved in silver lines down the front windows. Grant appeared beside Emily as she wiped the last table in her section. "My office," he said. Emily kept wiping. "No." The word came out before she dressed it in politeness. Grant went still. Rosa looked up from the bar. Emily set the cloth down and turned to him. "If you have feedback, Claire can be present." His smile arrived slowly. "Careful." Emily's pulse kicked hard, but her voice stayed even. "I am." Grant studied her for a long moment. Then he leaned closer, speaking softly enough that Rosa could not hear. "You think being stubborn makes you strong." Emily looked at him. "No," she said. "I think being professional keeps me employed." His eyes dropped briefly to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. "For now." He walked away. Emily stood there until his office door closed. Rosa came over with a clean glass still in her hand. "You need to get out of here." Emily picked up the cloth again. "I know." But knowing was not the same as leaving. That was the part people never understood unless they had lived inside numbers too small to make choices with. Leaving required savings. Leaving required backup. Leaving required another job, another door, another handhold. Emily had none of those. She had a mother whose medication could not wait for justice. She had a brother trying to build a future that would not look like hers. She had rent due on the first and a landlord who had stopped pretending patience was kindness. So she stayed, not because she was weak, because there are cages built from gold steel shame, fear, and unpaid bills, and the strongest people in the world still need time to find the lock. The night Dante Russo first entered the Silver Lark, Emily had been awake since 5:30 in the morning. Her mother's pharmacy had called twice. Noah had texted about a lab fee he had forgotten to mention. Grant had cut another shift. Claire had avoided her all afternoon. The rain had not stopped for 3 days. By 7 that evening, Emily's smile felt like something pinned to her face. By 8, her feet were numb. By 8:45, she was carrying a tray of water glasses toward the corner section when the front door opened and the room shifted. Not loudly, not all at once, just enough for Emily to feel it before she understood it. The host straightened. Rosa stopped polishing a glass. Marlene, halfway across the dining room with 2 menus in her hand, went still for 1 clean second. Emily turned toward the door. A man in a black overcoat stepped inside with rain on his shoulders and 2 silent men behind him. He removed his gloves slowly, finger by finger, as if time had agreed to wait for him. His hair was dark. His face was calm. A thin scar cut through his left eyebrow. There was nothing hurried in him, nothing wasted, nothing asking permission. The host swallowed before speaking. "Good evening, Mr. Russo." The man's eyes moved once across the dining room. Then they landed briefly and without surprise on Emily. She did not know his name yet, but some quiet part of her understood before anyone told her that this was a man who made dangerous men lower their voices. The host said the name with a careful kind of respect, and the room listened. "Good evening, Mr. Russo." Emily had heard that tone before. Not often, but enough to recognize it. It was the voice people used when they were not simply greeting a guest. They were acknowledging weather. They were acknowledging a storm that had decided to wear a black overcoat and walk through the front door. Dante Russo did not answer immediately. He stood just inside the Silver Lark, with rain darkening the shoulders of his coat. Behind him were 2 men, both quiet, both broad, both looking at the room without seeming to move their eyes much at all. One had close-cropped hair and a scar along his jaw. The other wore leather gloves and watched the exits the way servers watched empty wine glasses. Dante removed his gloves slowly, finger by finger. There was no performance in it. No need to make people wait. He simply moved at his own pace, and somehow the room adjusted around him. Emily stood beside table 11 with a tray of water glasses balanced in her hands. She had carried trays through screaming kitchens, crowded banquets, spilled champagne fighting couples, and drunk businessmen who thought snapping fingers made them kings. Her hands rarely shook. They did not shake now. But she noticed the weight of the tray. She noticed the way Rosa had gone still behind the bar, the way Marlene's face had closed into something unreadable, the way Claire appeared near the host stand as if pulled there by a string. Grant Whitmore was not on the floor. That was the first thing Emily thought. The second thing was that everyone else had noticed, too. The host guided Dante and his men toward the corner booth near the tall windows. It was in Emily's section because of course it was. Life had a way of placing dangerous things directly in front of her and then asking if she could still smile. She set the water glasses down at table 11, checked on their entrees, gave a calm answer about the short rib sauce, and walked to the service station. Rosa was there with a bottle opener in her hand. "Do you know that table?" Emily asked quietly. Rosa did not look toward the booth. "Number?" Emily waited. Rosa sighed through her nose. "I know of him." "That bad?" "That depends on who you are." Emily reached for 3 menus even though the host had already placed menus on the table. Her hands needed something to do. Rosa lowered her voice. "Dante Russo owns half the nightlife money in this city, and the other half asks him before it moves." Emily looked at her. "That sounds like gossip. Most gossip is just truth-wearing lipstick." Marlene passed behind them carrying silverware wrapped in linen. She spoke without stopping. "Do your job. Do not flirt. Do not act afraid. Do not ask questions." Emily turned toward her. "Anything else?" Marlene looked back once. "Yes. If he says thank you, believe he means it." Then she kept walking. Emily took one breath, set her shoulders, and approached the booth. Dante had taken the seat facing the room. Men like him always did. One associate sat to his left. The other remained standing for a moment, scanning the dining room before sitting down. Dante's coat was folded beside him. His black suit looked simple until the light touched it and revealed the kind of tailoring that made wealth seem quiet. No tie, white shirt open at the throat, a silver ring on one hand, the scar through his eyebrow pale under the warm restaurant light. Emily stopped at the edge of the table. "Good evening. My name is Emily. I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you with still or sparkling water?" The man with the jaw scar looked at Dante before answering. Dante looked at Emily, not through her, not over her, at her. His eyes were dark, almost black, and still enough to make silence feel crowded. "Still," he said, "please." The word landed strangely. Please. Not tossed away, not used as a decoration, meant. Emily nodded. Of course. She took the rest of the drink order. 1 club soda, 1 espresso. Dante asked for black coffee. No alcohol. No questions about the wine list. No attempt to charm her. No lingering comment about her smile or her name or how long she had worked there. By the time she walked away, Emily understood why he made people nervous. He gave nothing away, and he missed nothing. At the server station, she poured the water herself. She could have asked a runner. She did not. Something about that table made her want every step clean. When she returned, Dante was watching the dining room. Not like a tourist. Not like a critic. Like a man reading a room for exits, threats, weaknesses, and secrets. His gaze passed over Grant's closed office door. Then it returned to Emily. She placed the water glasses down. Are you ready to hear the specials? The associate with the scar nodded. Dante said nothing, which Emily took as permission. She described the dry, aged ribeye, the lake trout, the lamb with rosemary juice. Her voice stayed steady. Her feet hurt. Her back hurt. Her face felt tired from holding the same professional warmth all evening, but her voice did not betray her. Dante listened without checking his phone. That alone made him different from most men at his level. When she finished, he ordered steak, medium rare, no sauce. Black coffee after the meal. Nothing else. The man knew what he wanted and did not make a ceremony of wanting it. Emily entered the order, checked her other tables, delivered wine to a couple, celebrating an anniversary, and ignored the growing pressure behind her eyes. She had been holding herself together since sunrise, and the seams were beginning to pull. Her mother had called at noon. Not to ask for money. Linda never asked directly. She only mentioned things in a careful voice as if the details might become lighter if she set them down gently. The pharmacy said they need payment before they release the refill. Emily had been standing in the staff bathroom with one hand pressed against the sink. How much? Sweetheart, I can wait until Friday. How much, Mom? The number was not enormous. That was what made it cruel. It was small enough that a stable person could fix it without thinking. Large enough that Emily had to choose which bill to wound. She sent the money anyway. Then Noah texted about his lab fee. Then Claire told her Grant had moved her Friday dinner shift to Sunday lunch. By the time Dante Russo walked in, Emily had already spent the whole day swallowing panic in pieces small enough not to choke on. Service continued. The table near the window behaved almost too quietly. Dante's men spoke in low voices, sometimes in Italian, sometimes in English. Dante mostly listened. When Emily brought the steak, he moved his water glass slightly to make room for the plate before she reached for it. That small courtesy struck her harder than it should have. Powerful men usually waited to be served. Dante made space. She tried not to think about it. The first sign that Grant had returned to the dining room came as a shift in her own body. Her shoulders tightened before she saw him. He appeared near the bar in a charcoal suit, smiling at a city councilman who came in every few weeks and tipped poorly because he believed recognition was a form of payment. Grant shook hands, laughed, touched the man's arm, then turned his head. His eyes found Emily. They stayed. Emily was pouring water at table 9. She felt the look crawl over the back of her neck. She kept pouring. Too long. The glass overflowed. Not much. Just a thin rush over the rim onto the white tablecloth. The guest pulled back slightly. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Emily said, already reaching for a napkin. "Let me fix that for you." "It's fine," the woman said kindly. Emily blotted the water. Her fingers moved quickly, too quickly. When she turned toward the service station, Grant was still watching. His smile had changed. She hated that smile more than his anger. At Dante's booth, the conversation stopped. Emily did not see Dante notice, but he did. She went to the kitchen for fresh linen. The moment she passed through the swinging door, she let her face fall. Just for 2 seconds. That was all she allowed herself. Manny looked up from the pass. Table 9. Water spill. "You need a minute." "No." He gave her a look that said he did not believe her, but he turned back to the line. Emily pressed the clean linen to her chest and closed her eyes. 1 breath. 2. Then she returned to the floor. She fixed the tablecloth. She apologized again. She checked on the anniversary couple. She brought espresso to a man who did not look up from his phone. She picked up dessert menus. She smiled until the muscles in her cheeks felt carved from stone. Near 10, the restaurant softened into its late evening rhythm. Voices lower. Glasses emptier. The kitchen moving from rush to recovery. Rain tapping the windows. The city beyond them blurred in silver and black. Emily brought Dante's coffee. She set it down beside his right hand. "Black coffee. Thank you." Again he meant it. She began clearing the side plates. Her body leaned across the table with practiced care. That was when another tear escaped. Just one. She did not feel it until it reached her jaw. She turned slightly, hoping the shadow would hide it. It did not. Dante's voice came low across the table. "Who made you cry?" Emily froze. The associate with the scar looked down at his plate. The other man looked toward the windows. Neither of them pretended not to hear. They simply gave the moment space. Emily wiped her cheek with the back of her finger. "No one. Long day." Dante did not move. "That was not my question." His voice had not hardened. That almost made it harder to answer. She was used to force. She was used to men pushing because they wanted something. This was different. He was not reaching for her. He was holding the question still and letting her decide whether to step near it. Emily straightened with the plates in hand. "I'm fine." Dante looked at her for a long moment. His eyes flicked once toward Grant's office door. Emily hated herself for noticing that he had noticed. "I did not ask if you were fine," Dante said. The words were quiet enough that no one outside the booth could hear. Emily looked at him then, really looked. There was no pity in his expression, no soft performance of concern, no male satisfaction at having found a weakness, only attention. Exact, controlled, patient. Something in her wanted to tell him. That was the dangerous part. Not because of who he was, because of how tired she was. A person can carry pain for so long that the first steady voice sounds like a place to set it down. She tightened her grip on the plates. Family issue, she said. Work issue. Life issue. Pick one. One corner of Dante's mouth shifted not quite into a smile. Efficient answer. I'm working. So I see. His gaze moved briefly to the plates in her hands. Emily realized he was dismissing her without dismissing her, letting her return to the safety of motion. She nodded. I'll bring the check whenever you're ready. Emily. Her name in his mouth stopped her, though she did not know why. She turned back. Dante leaned slightly forward. The light caught the silver ring on his hand. Some men mistake quiet women for easy targets. The words hit too close. Emily's throat tightened. She looked toward the office door before she could stop herself. It was only half a second. Enough. Dante saw it. His expression did not change, but the air around him did. Emily lifted her chin. I'm not easy. No, Dante said. You are not. There was something in the way he said it that warmed her and frightened her at the same time. Not flirtation. Recognition. Emily walked away before the moment could become anything else. At the server station, she set the plates down harder than necessary. Rosa glanced over. You okay? Emily took a breath. Yes. Rosa's eyes moved toward Dante's booth. Careful with that one. Emily almost laughed. With him. With whatever it is when a man like that decides to be kind. Emily looked down at her hands. He asked a question. That's how doors open. Emily did not answer. When Dante's table finished, she brought the check in a black leather folder. The total was obscene. He placed a card inside without looking at the number. She processed it, returned the receipt, and thanked them. Dante signed slowly. His handwriting was clean and controlled. His men rose first. Dante stood after them, buttoning his coat. For one brief second, he was close enough for Emily to smell Rain coffee and something faintly expensive, cedar maybe, or smoke. Good night, Emily. Good night, Mr. Russo. His eyes held hers. Dante. The correction was quiet. She should not have felt it in her ribs. Good night, Dante. He left without looking back. The room exhaled after him. Conversations rose again. Rosa resumed polishing glasses. The host looked relieved in a way he tried to hide. Grant's office door remained closed. Emily waited until her other tables were settled before clearing Dante's booth. The cash was the first thing she saw. Folded beneath the signed receipt was a tip large enough to make her stop moving. More than generous. More than polite. Enough to cover her mother's prescription and Noah's lab fee and groceries that were not chosen by price per ounce. Her eyes burned. She looked towards the door, but Dante was gone. Then she saw the card. It was black, heavy stock matte under the light. No logo, no business title, no address. Only a name in silver letters. Dante Russo. A phone number beneath it. Emily turned it over. On the back, written by hand, were the words, If a man ever makes you feel unsafe, call me. She stood there with the card between her fingers while the restaurant moved around her. Glasses clinked. A chair scraped softly. Rain blurred the windows. In the hallway, Grant's office door opened, then closed again. Emily folded the card once. She did not know why. Maybe to make it smaller. Maybe to make it less powerful. Maybe because something about holding it flat in her palm felt too much like accepting help. She slipped it into her apron pocket. The left side, opposite her order pad. Rosa appeared beside her, pretending to collect empty glasses. He gave you something. Emily picked up a water glass. Just the check. Rosa looked at her pocket. Emily. Emily met her eyes. Rosa lowered her voice. You do not call that number because you are angry. You do not call it because you are scared of a bad shift or a mean boss. If you call Dante Russo, something answers with him. Emily felt the card against her hip. What kind of something? Rosa looked toward the door. The kind this city pretends it does not need until the police are too slow and lawyers are too expensive. Emily said nothing. Rosa softened. I'm not telling you to throw it away. What are you telling me? I'm telling you a door like that does not open into a normal room. Emily finished clearing the booth. At the end of the night, she changed in the staff room and found herself touching the folded card through the apron fabric. Marlene noticed, but said nothing. That was one of Marlene's gifts. She knew when silence was mercy. Emily walked home under a broken umbrella with the card in her coat pocket. The rain had thinned to mist. Streetlights smeared gold across the pavement. A train roared somewhere above the avenue, iron on iron, loud enough to cover the sound of her own breathing. At home, she set the card on the kitchen table. It looked wrong there next to the overdue electric bill and a chipped mug with a tea bag gone cold inside it. Dante Russo. She said the name once under her breath. Not like a prayer. More like testing whether the room changed around it. It did not. Her apartment remained small. The radiator still knocked. The sink still dripped once every 12 seconds. Her phone still showed a low balance and 3 unread messages. Nothing had changed. And yet, something had entered her life that had not been there before. An option. Emily picked up the card and walked to the trash can. She stood there for a full minute. Then she cursed softly, turned around and put it in the back pocket of the blue folder. The next morning she woke before her alarm. For a few seconds she did not remember the card. Then she did. She got out of bed, opened the folder, and stared at it. The words on the back looked different in morning light. Less dramatic, more dangerous. If a man ever makes you feel unsafe, call me. Emily took it out, folded it along the same crease, and placed it in her apron pocket before leaving for work. She told herself it was temporary, just for one shift. By the 3rd day, it had become habit. By the 10th, it had become weight. By the 17th, it had become a secret she carried so close to her body that sometimes when Grant passed too near, she felt her hand drift toward it. Not to use it. Never to use it. Only to remember it was there. Dante did not return to the Silver Lark that week, or the next. But once Emily thought she saw a black car across the street when she left after closing. It was parked beneath a dead streetlight engine running windows dark. She paused on the sidewalk. The car did not move. Then Rosa came out behind her, and when Emily looked again, the car was gone. She told herself it was nothing. Chicago was full of black cars. Chicago was full of men with secrets. Still, when she walked home, she did not feel watched in the way Grant made her feel watched. She felt guarded. That scared her more than fear did. One night, near the end of the month, Emily found Marlene in the alley behind the restaurant. Marlene was leaning against the brick wall, coat wrapped around her shoulders, cigarette unlit between her fingers. "I thought you quit," Emily said. Marlene looked at the cigarette, trying. Emily stood beside her. For a while they listened to the kitchen vents and the wet hiss of tires in the street. Marlene said, "Rosa told me who gave you the card." Emily closed her eyes. "Of course she did. She worries loudly. She warned me not to use it. She is not wrong." Emily looked at her. Marlene turned the cigarette between her fingers. "I'm going to say something, and you can hate me for it if you need to. I probably won't. You might?" Marlene inhaled slowly as if preparing her lungs for truth. There is a difference between being saved and being owned. Make sure you know which one a man is offering. Emily absorbed that. The alley light buzzed overhead. "And if I cannot tell, then wait until you can." Emily looked down at her apron pocket. The card sat there silent and folded. Marlene's voice softened. "But do not confuse refusing help with being free. I did that for a long time." Emily turned to her. "What happened?" Marlene gave a small, tired smile. "I got very good at surviving things I should have escaped." The kitchen door opened, spilling heat and noise into the alley. Manny stuck his head out. "Ladies, if you are done solving the sins of mankind, Table 7 needs dessert menus." Marlene pushed away from the wall. "Tell mankind to wait." But she went inside. Emily followed. Grant was near the bar when they returned, speaking with Claire. His eyes moved to Emily's face, then to her apron pocket, then back again. For one strange second, Emily wondered if he could feel the card there. If predators sensed the first shape of a weapon before it was drawn. His smile appeared. "Emily," he said, a word after close. Her hand brushed the folded card. "No," she said. The word was quiet. Grant's smile thinned. Claire looked down at her tablet. Emily walked past them both and picked up dessert menus for table 7. The card stayed in her pocket. The night went on. At the end of the shift, when Emily opened the blue folder at her kitchen table, she added another note. Another date. Another sentence Grant had said. Another small piece of proof in a growing stack of paper. Then she took out Dante's card. She unfolded it carefully. For the first time, she did not think about throwing it away. She placed it beside the folder next to the pay stubs, schedules, emails, and rent notices. All the respectable evidence. All the decent doors she had been knocking on. The card did not belong with them. It belonged to another kind of world. Emily stared at it until the radiator knocked hard enough to startle her. Then she folded it, once slid it back into her apron pocket, and turned off the kitchen light. By the end of the month, the black card no longer felt like paper. It felt like the one thing Grant Whitmore had never planned for. By the time the black card became part of Emily Parker's uniform, Grant Whitmore had stopped pretending his punishments were accidents. That was the cruelest part of it. Not the money. Not even the lost shifts. It was the calm certainty in him, the way he moved through the Silver Lark, as if every table, every paycheck, every locked door, and every frightened silence belonged to him by right. He had learned her life the way a thief learns a house before breaking in. He knew she needed the job. He knew Friday dinners mattered. He knew Saturday private events could cover a week of groceries. He knew she stayed late when asked to help Rosa close the bar because Rosa would split cab fare home. He knew she sent money to her mother. He knew Noah was in school. Emily had never told him any of that directly. Men like Grant did not need confession. They collected details from payroll forms, casual staff conversations, emergency contact sheets, and the tired look on a woman's face when she checked her phone between tables. Then they called it management. The next schedule appeared on a Monday afternoon. Emily stood in the narrow staff hallway with her coat still on, rainwater darkening the ends of her hair. Servers crowded around the posted sheet scanning for good shifts, bad shifts, doubles brunches, and late closings. Someone cursed softly. Someone else laughed in relief. Emily waited until the others moved away. Her name was near the bottom. Tuesday lunch. Wednesday lunch. Sunday brunch support. No Friday. No Saturday. No private event. She read it once, then again, though there was nothing complicated on the page. Her best hours had been removed cleanly, like a surgeon cutting away anything that might keep her alive. Behind her, Marlene said nothing. That was how Emily knew it was bad. She folded the edge of her coat sleeve between her fingers and let go before she wrinkled it. Claire came down the hall with her tablet against her chest. "Claire," Emily said. Claire slowed, not stopped. Emily pointed to the schedule. "I need to talk about this." Claire's face had become a practiced hallway face. Smooth, busy, regretful from a safe distance. "Not now." "When?" "Email me." "I have emailed you." Claire looked past her toward the dining room. "Then I'll respond when I can." Emily stepped half a foot into her path. "My premium shifts were removed again." Claire lowered her voice. "Emily, don't do this in the hallway." "Then where should I do it?" Claire's eyes flicked toward Grant's office door. There was the answer. Emily felt the card in her apron pocket, even though she was not wearing the apron yet. It was tucked in her coat today inside the lining near her ribs. Claire leaned closer. "I'm sorry." Emily studied her. The apology was real. That somehow made it worse. "Sorry does not pay me," Emily said. Claire's mouth tightened. "No, it doesn't." Then she walked away. Emily stayed by the schedule until Rosa came to stand beside her. Rosa smelled like coffee and citrus peel. "How bad?" Emily did not answer. Rosa looked for herself. A low curse left her mouth. "Grant is a disease in a good suit." Emily laughed once, sharp and tired. "I need Saturday." "I know. I need Friday." I know. I need one person in this building to stop saying they know and do something. Rosa went quiet. Emily regretted it immediately. Rosa had done more than most. Coffee, warnings, rides home. Quiet kindness behind the bar when kindness was its own risk. I'm sorry, Emily said. Rosa shook her head. No, you are right. From the dining room came the sound of silverware being set for dinner service. Forks, knives, plates. The precise little music of a restaurant preparing to feed people who would never know the cost of the hands serving them. Emily took off her coat. I have table set up. Rosa touched her arm gently. Emily looked at her. Do not let him get you alone tonight. Emily's hand moved to her pocket. I won't. But both women knew there was a difference between a promise and a building designed to trap you. Dinner service started slow, then turned sharp. Rain always brought people in hungry and impatient. Wet coats, late reservations, complaints about traffic, guests who wanted warmth but carried the weather in with them. Emily worked Sunday brunch energy on a Tuesday lunch schedule, smiling through the insult of it. Her section had smaller tables near the back, the ones with uneven light and less privacy. Grant had given the River View tables to a new server named Tessa, who had been at the Silver Lark for 11 days and still forgot table numbers when nervous. It was not Tessa's fault. Emily repeated that silently every time Tessa passed with another expensive bottle of wine that should have been Emily's tip. Halfway through service, Grant appeared on the floor. He wore a charcoal suit with no tie. His hair was perfect. His watch flashed under the sconces as he adjusted a chair no guest had complained about. He moved from table to table, smiling, touching shoulders, accepting compliments for a dinner he had not cooked and a room he had not cleaned. Then he reached Emily's section. She was placing a salad in front of a woman wearing pearls. Grant stopped beside the table. Careful, Emily. She paused. The plate was centered. The order was correct. The woman had not moved. Grant reached over and rotated the plate a quarter inch. Presentation matters. The woman looked between them, embarrassed for reasons she could not name. Emily smiled. Of course. Grant stayed there 1 second too long. Then he leaned toward the guests. We are still refining some of our service team. The man at the table gave an awkward laugh. Emily felt heat rise along her neck. She picked up the empty appetizer plates. Can I bring anything else at the moment? No, thank you, the woman said softly. Emily walked away. At the service station, she set the plates down and gripped the counter until her fingers stopped wanting to curl into fists. Marlene came up beside her with a tray of bread plates. He wants you to react. I know. Do not give him the pleasure. Emily looked toward the dining room. Grant was laughing with table 6 now restored to charm. I am running out of things not to give him. Marlene's face softened, but service did not allow tenderness to last. Table 12 needs water. Emily picked up the pitcher. I'm going. The deduction came 2 days later. Emily was sitting at her kitchen table when the payroll email arrived. The apartment was quiet except for the radiator and the drip in the sink. She had taken off her shoes by the door because one heel had rubbed her skin raw. Her dinner was a piece of toast folded around peanut butter because cooking felt like a mountain. She opened the pay statement. Service adjustment, $180. Emily stared at the number until the room seemed to tilt. $180 was not abstract. It was her mother's refill. It was Noah's lab fee. It was half the electric bill. It was 2 bags of groceries if she bought carefully and skipped meat. It was the difference between paying rent late with apology and paying rent late with fear. Her phone buzzed. Noah, don't be mad. I talked to my advisor. If I take 1 semester off, I can work full-time and go back in spring. Emily pressed the heel of her hand to her mouth. The toast sat untouched on the plate. She typed with one hand. You are not taking a semester off. He replied almost immediately. You can't keep doing this. She closed her eyes. Then she typed. I said no. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Okay. That single word broke something small in her. Not because he had agreed, Because he trusted her to make impossible things possible. Emily set the phone down and opened the blue folder. She added the new pay statement. She wrote the amount in careful block letters. Service adjustment. No warning. No written complaint. No explanation. Then she opened a second folder on her laptop and uploaded a copy to the email account Marlene had told her to create. After that, she sat back and looked at the papers spread across the table. Schedules, pay deductions, emails, notes, screenshots, names, dates, a whole architecture of proof. And still Grant would walk into that dining room tomorrow with his expensive smile and call her difficult. The next day, he did not wait long. Emily arrived for Wednesday lunch and found two servers whispering near the wine station. One was Tessa. The other was a man named Blake, who had been hired the week before and already laughed too hard at Grant's jokes. They stopped when Emily approached. Too late. She heard her name. Then Blake said, "I'm just saying if there were register issues, they would not keep her on cash out." Emily went still. Tessa looked guilty. Blake looked amused. Emily set her bag down slowly. "What register issues?" Blake shrugged. "Nothing. I heard wrong." "No, Emily, said. You heard something. Say it clearly." Tessa swallowed. "Grant said there have been discrepancies." Emily's pulse moved into her throat. "Discrepancies." Blake lifted his hands. "Hey, I don't know anything." "Then stop repeating it." His expression tightened. "You don't have to be aggressive." There it was. The word waiting for every woman who refused to bleed politely. Aggressive. Emily looked at Tessa. "Did you hear him say I stole?" Tessa's face went pale. "I didn't say that." "Did he?" Tessa looked down. Blake rolled his eyes. Emily picked up her bag and walked away before she gave Grant exactly what he wanted. In the staff bathroom, she locked herself in the last stall and stood there without sitting. The tile smelled like bleach and old perfume. Her breath came too fast. She pressed both hands against the wall and counted backward from 20. 20. 19. 18. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her mother. Emily answered because not answering would make Linda call Noah, and Noah would worry. "Hi, Mom. Are you at work?" "Yes. I can call later." "No, it's fine." Linda hesitated. "You sound strange." Emily closed her eyes. "I'm in the bathroom." "Oh." A pause. The kind mothers understand too well. What happened? Emily stared at the stall door. Nothing she could say would make the situation smaller. Nothing she could hide would make her mother safer. Just a hard shift. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You do not have to protect me from every hard thing." Emily's eyes burned. "Yes, I do. No, baby, you don't." Emily covered her mouth with her hand, but the sound still escaped. Small, broken, angry. She hated crying at work. Hated it more than Grant's smile. Crying felt like giving him a receipt. Linda's voice softened. "Come over tonight, I'll make soup. You can't stand that long. I can open a can with dignity." Emily laughed through the tears. "I'll come after close." "Good, and Emily." "Yes. If someone is hurting you, do not make loneliness part of the injury." Emily did not answer, because the black card was in her apron pocket, because the blue folder was under her mattress, because loneliness had already become part of it, woven so tightly into the days that she had stopped naming it. "I love you," Emily said. "I love you more." Emily ended the call, washed her face, and returned to the floor with dry eyes. Grant was waiting near the server station. Not visibly. He was speaking to Claire, but his body had angled toward the hallway as if he knew exactly when Emily would emerge. He looked at her face, then smiled. "Everything all right?" Emily picked up a stack of menus. "Yes." "You seem emotional." "I'm working." "That is not what I asked." She met his eyes. "And yet that is my answer." Claire's tablet lowered slightly. Grant's smile thinned. "Careful with your tone." Emily leaned closer just enough that only he could hear. "Careful with my pay." For 1 second his face emptied. Not anger, not surprise. Calculation. Then his smile returned brighter than before. "There she is." He walked away. Claire whispered Emily. Emily did not look at her. "No, That evening, Marlene found her in the alley behind the kitchen. The air smelled like wet brick garbage bins and the metallic breath of the city after rain. Emily stood beneath the security light with her arms crossed, trying to make 5 minutes feel like rest. Marlene stepped out and let the door close behind her. "He is telling people you are stealing. I heard. It is not new." Emily turned. Marlene looked older under the alley light. "There was a girl before you," she said. "Katie, 23, sweet kid. Worked hard. Her father was sick. Grant knew. He always knows the soft places." Emily said nothing. Marlene continued. "She refused him. Lost shifts. Lost tips. Then the rumors started. Cash drawer, wine inventory, guest complaints. She quit before he could fire her. What happened to her? She applied at 3 restaurants in River North. All of them called Grant." Emily's stomach sank. He ruined her reference. Marlene nodded. "Katie moved back to Indiana. The alley seemed to narrow." "Why did you stay?" Emily asked. Marlene looked at the unlit cigarette between her fingers. "Because I had 2 kids and an ex-husband who treated child support like a suggestion." Emily leaned back against the brick wall. "Did he do this to you too?" Marlene's silence answered before her mouth did. "Not the same way." Emily understood. Not the same way did not mean less. It meant another shape of harm. Marlene looked at her. "You have something Katie did not." "What?" Marlene nodded toward Emily's apron pocket. Emily's hand moved there. "The card. I'm not using it. I did not say use it. Everyone keeps warning me about him. Because they should. Then why does it feel like everyone is also waiting for me to call?" Marlene looked away toward the mouth of the alley where headlights moved across wet pavement. "Because we are tired of watching Grant pick women who have no one standing behind them." Emily's throat tightened. "I don't know Dante Russo." "No," Marlene said, "but Grant knows of him." Emily looked at her sharply. "How do you know?" Marlene's mouth twisted. "Grant used to brag more when he drank with investors after close. Dante owns buildings, clubs, restaurants, security firms. Maybe more than that. Grant talks like he respects men like him. But respect is not the word. What is? Fear." The kitchen door opened. Heat spilled out. Manny stuck his head into the alley. "Break is over." Marlene crushed the unlit cigarette in her palm like it had offended her. "We're coming." Emily went back inside with the card heavy in her pocket. For the next week, Grant tightened the cage 1 wire at a time. A customer complaint appeared in her file unsigned and vague. Unwelcoming demeanor. No date. No table number. No name. Claire would not give her a copy. Emily wrote down the refusal. Then her cash-out took longer than everyone else's because Grant required a second count. Then she was told she could no longer serve private dining. Then a regular who always asked for her was seated in Tessa's section. When the man waved at Emily and asked why she was not taking care of him, Grant appeared within seconds and said smoothly, "Emily is helping us in a different capacity tonight." A different capacity. That meant standing near the service station with no tables for 20 minutes, while Rent waited at home like a wolf. Every night Emily added to the folder. Every morning she woke with less room inside herself. The card remained untouched. On the 31st day after Dante gave it to her, Emily's direct deposit did not arrive. She checked at 7 in the morning. Nothing. She checked at 9. Nothing. By noon, she called the payroll number listed in the contractor packet. It routed to a voicemail that did not accept messages. At 2, she emailed Claire. At 4, Claire replied, "Please see Grant after close regarding compensation review." Emily read the line 3 times while standing in her kitchen with one hand on the counter. Compensation review. Her phone rang. It was Noah. She let it ring, then immediately called him back because guilt was faster than fear. "Hey," she said. "Did I catch you at a bad time?" "No. You always say no when it is yes." Emily looked at the refrigerator. There was a pharmacy magnet on it with her mother's refill date circled in blue ink. "What's up?" "I got approved for the payment extension." Emily closed her eyes. "That's good. Only 2 weeks, though. I'll handle it." "Emily." "I said I'll handle it." He exhaled. "I hate this." She laughed softly without humor. "Get in line." After they hung up, Emily took the blue folder from under her mattress. She placed it on the table. Then she took out Dante's card. It looked smaller than it felt. She unfolded it. "If a man ever makes you feel unsafe, call me." Unsafe. Not uncomfortable. Not angry. Not desperate. Unsafe. She set the card beside her phone. For several minutes she did nothing. Then she picked up the card, folded it once, and slipped it into her apron pocket. At the Silver Lark, the night moved wrong from the beginning. Grant was on the floor too much. He checked table settings he had never cared about. He spoke quietly to Claire near the host stand. Twice, Emily looked up and found him already looking away. The dining room was full, then half full, then nearly empty. At 10:45, Rosa caught Emily near the bar. "Come home with me tonight." Emily looked at her. "What?" "After close. We leave together. No arguments." Emily managed a small smile. "I have to see Grant about my pay." Rosa's face hardened. "No, you don't." "Yes, I do." "Then I'm coming," he said after close. "Great, I close too." Emily touched Rosa's wrist. "I need him to give me the check." Rosa stared at her. "You think he called you in there to hand you money?" Emily did not answer. Rosa lowered her voice. "Emily, listen to me." But Claire appeared beside them, pale and stiff. "Grant wants to see you when you are finished." Rosa looked at Claire with open disgust. Claire looked down. Emily untied the front of her apron and retied it tighter. "Tell him I'll be there." Claire walked away. Rosa whispered, "Do not close that door." Emily looked toward the hallway that led to Grant's office, past the staff lockers, past the supply closet, past the emergency exit with the red sign glowing above it. "I know where the door is," Emily said. "That is not the same as being able to reach it." Emily's hand moved to her apron pocket. The folded card pressed against her fingers. For 31 days she had carried the number without using it. Through insults, through stolen shifts, through lies, through deductions, through every decent door that opened into another wall. Tonight, the card did not feel like a temptation. It felt like a witness. At 11:38, the last guests left. At 11:40, the dining room lights dimmed. Chairs scraped softly as the closing staff began resetting the room. Manny called goodnight from the kitchen. Marlene stood by the server's station watching Emily with a face that tried to be calm and failed. Rosa was still behind the bar polishing the same glass for too long. Emily walked toward the back hallway. Each step sounded too clear. Her shoes on tile, the distant hum of refrigeration, the soft buzz of the emergency exit sign. Grant's office door waited at the end of the hall, half lit by the amber glow beneath it. Emily stopped outside and looked once toward the exit. Then she knocked. Grant's voice came through the door. "Come in." Emily opened it. Grant sat behind his mahogany desk with his tie loosened and his sleeves rolled up as if he had earned the right to look tired. The brass lamp beside him threw warm light over the polished wood, the leather chair, the empty envelope placed carefully at the center of the desk. He smiled when he saw her. "Close the door, Emily." She stepped inside. Her fingers touched the folded black card in her apron pocket. Then she closed the door. The latch clicked behind Emily like a period at the end of a sentence she had been trying not to read. Grant Whitmore sat behind his desk, relaxed in the amber light with the empty envelope placed between them like a joke he had prepared carefully. His office smelled faintly of whiskey leather and the expensive candle Claire lit sometimes before investors came through. Outside the office, the Silver Lark was closing in soft pieces, chairs being lifted, silverware gathered, water glasses stacked in careful rows. Inside, everything was still. Emily stood near the door. She did not sit. Grant noticed that first. He noticed everything that could be turned into control. "You can stop looking like you are about to be sentenced," he said. Emily looked at the empty envelope on the desk. "Where is my pay?" Grant smiled. "Always right to business with you." "I worked the month." "Yes." "I worked every shift you gave me." "Also yes." "Then I need my money." He leaned back in the leather chair. His white shirt was untucked slightly on one side. His tie hung loose at his collar, the costume of a man who wanted to look worn down by responsibility, though nothing in this room suggested he had ever carried anything heavier than his own appetite. "You are not getting paid this month," he said. The words came flat, almost bored. Emily did not move. For what reason? Grant tilted his head like the question disappointed him. "Accumulated service issues. I have not received a formal warning. You have received several corrections. Corrections are not warnings. They are when I say they are." Emily held his gaze. The lamp hummed softly. Outside, someone laughed in the dining room, then the sound died, quickly swallowed by the hallway. Grant stood. He did it slowly. Not because he needed to stand, but because he wanted the movement to mean something. He came around the desk with one hand in his pocket, stopping near the corner close enough to shrink the room, but far enough that he could still pretend nothing about this was physical. "You keep making this harder than it has to be," he said. Emily's fingers found the seam of her apron. "No, you do." His smile faded by 1 degree. "Do you know how many girls would kill for your position here?" Emily almost laughed. "My position. Premium restaurant. Private clients. Good tips when you earn them. When you allow me to earn them." Grant's eyes sharpened. There it is again. What? That tone, that entitlement. Emily looked at him fully then, and something in her face made his own change. Not fear. Not yet. Irritation. A flicker of surprise that the thing he had been pressing down had not become small enough. "I'm asking for money I already earned," she said. "That is not entitlement." Grant rested one hand on the desk and leaned toward her. "No. You're asking me to ignore your behavior, your attitude, the way you make this place uncomfortable." Emily looked around the office. The wall of framed reviews, the shelves of whiskey, the photograph of Grant shaking hands with the mayor at some fundraiser, the closed blinds, the locked filing cabinet, the empty envelope. This place was uncomfortable before I walked in. The silence after that was clean and dangerous. Grant smiled again, but now it had teeth in it. "You have no idea how generous I have been." Emily said nothing. "I could have fired you months ago. For refusing to be alone with you." His jaw tightened. For being difficult. The word hung between them, polished by use. Emily felt the old sting of it, but it did not enter the same way anymore. Difficult had been used on her so many times that it had lost its disguise. It meant she had not softened enough. It meant she had not smiled while being cornered. It meant she had kept her spine. Grant came closer by half a step. "You give me one evening of honesty," he said quietly, "and I reconsider the entire month." Emily felt her stomach drop fast and cold. There it was. Not hidden in compliments, not buried beneath schedule changes, not disguised as feedback or opportunity. There it was in the open, ugly, and simple. Her voice came out low. "No." Grant watched her. Emily had said no before. She had said it politely, carefully, professionally, with explanations wrapped around it like padding. Not tonight. Tonight, the word had no apology attached. Grant's expression emptied. He walked back behind his desk and sat down. He spread his hands on the wood as if calming himself or claiming the surface beneath him. "Then you get nothing." Emily remained standing. "And before you decide to make another complaint," he continued, "remember how small your world is." She did not answer. "Police," he said. "I tell them there have been cash discrepancies, inventory missing, tips misreported. You think they will take your word over mine." Emily's pulse beat once in her throat. Lawyer Grant leaned back. "Mine will bury yours in paperwork until you cannot afford the bus ride to the courthouse." He watched her face, looking for damage. "Other restaurants," he said. "People call me before they hire from my floor. You know that, right? A little word from me and suddenly you are unreliable, emotional, hard to manage." Emily folded her hands in front of her. He smiled again. "Union." "There is no union here. You signed the contractor agreement, Emily. You remember signing things when you needed money. That one landed. He knew it did. The satisfaction came back into his face. "I know your mother is sick," he said softly. "I know your brother's in school. I know rent is not exactly flexible right now." Emily's hands almost shook. "Almost?" Grant leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "You think I do not know who works for me?" She stared at him. "No," she said. "I think you know exactly who you choose." For a second, something moved in his eyes. Then he laughed. Not loud, not wild, not theatrical. A quiet laugh. Comfortable. The laugh of a man who had mistaken exhaustion for defeat. "You really do not understand where you are, do you?" Emily's hand slid into her apron pocket. Grant saw the movement and smiled wider. "What are you going to do?" "Call Claire. She's in her car by now. Call Rosa. She can mix you a drink and tell you I am awful. Call your mother. That would be cruel even for me." Emily's fingers closed around the folded black card. Grant leaned back. "Go ahead," he said. "Call whoever you want." The words moved through the room and settled into every corner. Emily took out her phone. Grant laughed again, shaking his head. This should be entertaining. She unfolded the card with one hand. The crease had softened over 31 days. The silver letters caught the lamp. Dante Russo. Grant did not see the name at first. He was still enjoying himself. Emily dialed the number. 1 ring. Grant folded his hands over his stomach, amused. 2 rings. Emily put the phone on speaker and set it on the edge of the desk. The line opened. No voicemail. No sleepy confusion, no question. Only a man's voice, low and awake. "Emily." Grant's laugh stopped. It did not fade. It stopped. Emily closed her eyes for the smallest moment, not in relief exactly, but because hearing her name said like that, steady and certain, made her realize how long every other voice had been asking something from her. She opened her eyes. "I am sorry to call this late. Do not apologize," Dante said. "Tell me what happened." Grant leaned forward. His eyes narrowed at the phone. Emily kept her voice even. "My employer is refusing to pay me." A pause. Dante did not fill it. Emily continued. "He says I have service penalties. He says there are theft concerns. He says if I complain he will ruin my reference." Grant reached toward the phone. Emily did not stop him. He picked it up with the familiar confidence of a man used to controlling rooms through devices exactly like this one. Calls to attorneys, calls to inspectors, calls to investors, calls to people who owed him favors. "This is Grant Whitmore," he said, voice measured and cold. "Whoever you are, this is a private business matter." The silence on the line changed. It did not become louder. It became heavier. Then Dante said Dante Russo. Grant's face went still. It was not dramatic at first. No gasp, no stumble. Just a flicker at the jaw, a pause in the eyes, a sudden awareness of his own hand holding the phone. Emily watched the name enter him. She watched him remember things she did not know. Maybe a debt. Maybe a warning. Maybe a story told by men who had stopped laughing halfway through it. Whatever Dante Russo was in Chicago, Grant knew enough to set the phone down with more care than he had picked it up. "Mr. Russo," Grant said. His voice almost held. "Almost. There seems to be a misunderstanding." "I am not speaking to you," Dante said. Grant closed his mouth. Dante's voice returned to Emily. "How much does he owe you?" Emily had done the math too many times not to know. 5 months of deductions. 35, 71, 2180, then another 180. Lost event wages are harder to prove, so I am not counting them. This month is unpaid in full. What is the full month? She told him. Grant looked at her sharply as if the precision itself offended him. Dante was quiet for 2 seconds. Is the door closed? Emily looked toward the handle. Yes. Is he between you and the door? No. Are you hurt? Number. Are you safe for 10 minutes? Emily looked at Grant. He was sitting very still now. For now, Dante's voice did not rise. It did not need to. Stay where you are. The call ended. No goodbye. No promise. Only the clean finality of a man already moving. Emily picked up her phone and put it back in her apron pocket. Grant stared at her. For the first time that night, he did not look bored. "You do not know what kind of man you just called," he said. Emily moved to the chair near the door and sat down. Her legs had not failed. She simply wanted him to see her choose comfort in the room he had built to frighten her. "I know what kind of man I was trapped in here with." Grant's mouth opened, then closed. The words found nowhere to go. He stood and walked to the window. The blinds were half closed, slicing the city into narrow strips of light. He looked out as if Chicago might explain itself to him. His hands went into his pockets, then came out. Then one hand adjusted his watch. He turned back. "This is absurd," he said. Emily said nothing. "You think Russo cares about your paycheck?" Still nothing. Grant crossed to his desk and picked up his own phone. He dialed, waited. His eyes moved toward Emily, then away. No answer. He ended the call and dialed another number. No answer. The third call went to voicemail. He hung up before the tone. Outside the office, the sounds of closing had changed. Emily noticed before Grant did. The restaurant had its own rhythm at the end of night. Chairs scraping, glass racks moving, staff talking in low, tired voices, a laugh from the bar. The kitchen vents shutting down one by one. Now the rhythm had thinned. Voices dropped. Movement slowed. Somewhere beyond the door, Rosa said something too quietly to catch. Grant heard it then. He straightened. The front entrance opened. Not the ordinary soft sigh of a door admitting guests. A deliberate opening, held wide. Silence followed. Grant adjusted his tie. Emily looked at the gesture and almost felt sorry for him, not because he deserved pity, but because the movement was so useless. A small man putting his costume back on before the truth entered. Footsteps crossed the dining room, measured, unhurried. One set first, two behind. No one spoke. Emily pictured the floor as if she were standing on it. Rosa behind the bar with one hand on a glass. Marlene near the server station cloth forgotten in her hand. Claire by the hallway, pale and motionless. Manny at the kitchen door, arms crossed, watching. The footsteps stopped outside the office. A single knock came, not loud. "Enough." Grant lifted his chin. Emily rose from the chair. The handle turned. The door opened. Dante Russo stood in the doorway wearing a black suit and a dark overcoat, rain still bright on the fabric. His hair was combed back. The scar through his eyebrow looked paler under the office lamp than it had in the dining room weeks ago. His gloves were in one hand. The silver ring on his right hand caught the amber light. Behind him stood Luca and Nico, silent as the two sides of a closed gate. Dante's eyes went first to Emily, not to Grant, not to the desk, not to the money, her. "Are you hurt?" Emily shook her head. "Number." He looked at her for one more second as if confirming the answer himself. Only then did he enter the room. The space changed around him. Grant's office had been designed to make people feel smaller. The desk too wide, the chair too low on the guest side. The lamp angled so Grant sat in warmth while visitors stood in shadow. Every detail had been chosen to tilt the world toward him. Dante did not seem to notice, or he noticed and found it irrelevant. Grant stepped forward. "Mr. Russo, I appreciate you coming, but this situation has clearly been misrepresented." Dante raised one hand slightly. Grant stopped. It was the smallest gesture Emily had ever seen silence a man. Dante removed his overcoat and handed it to Luca without looking back. Then he walked to the chair across from Grant's desk. The chair Grant had told Emily to sit in. The chair she had refused. Dante sat down, slowly, comfortably, like he had been expected. He looked at Grant. "You owe her money." Grant remained standing. "There are internal calculations involved. I did not ask what you call them." Grant swallowed. Dante's voice stayed calm. "I asked if you owe her money." Grant looked toward the doorway. Luca and Nico had not moved. They were not threatening him. That was somehow worse. Threatening could be argued with. Stillness could not. Grant returned his gaze to Dante. "There may be compensation pending." "Pending where?" Grant blinked. "In accounting." Dante looked around the office once. Is accounting in this room? Grant said nothing. Dante placed his gloves on the desk. You have 5 minutes to make pending become paid. Grant's face tightened. This is not how business is conducted. Dante's eyes held his. This is exactly how your business is being conducted. You made sure of that when you closed the door. Emily felt those words move through her body. Not dramatic, not loud. Exact. Grant reached for the folder on his desk, the one Emily had seen before in pieces. Complaint forms. Payroll notes. Things created after the fact and dressed as records. She has a documented pattern, Grant said. Service issues. Guest discomfort. Cash concerns. Dante did not look at the folder. I have eaten here for 3 years. Grant hesitated. Dante continued. She served me before she knew my name. She was careful, fast, polite. She did not touch the table in a way that made herself the center of it. She did not oversell. She did not interrupt. She watched the room better than your floor manager. Claire made a faint sound from the hallway. Emily had not realized she was standing there. Dante looked at the folder now. If my name appears in there as a complaint, open it. Grant's hand froze on the cover. Dante leaned back. If my name does not appear in there, keep your lie closed. Grant kept it closed. The silence was so complete, Emily could hear the office clock ticking above the framed reviews. Dante looked at his watch. 4 minutes. Grant moved. He went to the wall safe behind a framed photograph of the Silver Lark's opening night. His fingers worked the combination. Once. Wrong. He cursed under his breath. Tried again. The safe clicked open. Emily watched his hands. They shook. Only a little. Enough. Grant removed an envelope, then another. He brought them to the desk and counted cash with stiff fingers. The sound of bills against wood seemed too intimate for the room. He opened a drawer, took out a business checkbook, hesitated, then looked at Dante. Dante's expression did not change. Grant wrote the remaining amount. His pen scratched across the paper. Emily stood near the door and felt every number as it was written. 35, 70, 120, 180, another 180, 1 full month. Every dollar had a memory attached to it. Her mother's refill delayed. Noah pretending he could take a semester off. Toast for dinner. Walking home in the rain to save train fare. Smiling at tables while fear sat under her ribs like a second heart. Grant tore the check free. He placed it with the cash and pushed the envelope toward Dante. Dante did not touch it. Give it to her. Grant's eyes lifted. For one moment, Emily saw the humiliation reach him. Not guilt, humiliation. He cared that Dante was watching. He cared that Claire stood in the hallway. He cared that Rosa and Marlene and half the closing staff could feel the shape of this through the open door. He did not care that Emily had gone hungry. Still, he picked up the envelope. He walked around the desk. Emily stayed where she was. Grant stopped in front of her and held out the money. His eyes remained somewhere near her shoulder. Emily did not take it quickly. She let him stand there. Then she accepted the envelope. The paper felt warm from his hand. Dante's voice came from behind him. Count it. Grant's jaw tightened, but he stepped back. Emily moved to the edge of the desk and opened the envelope. She counted the cash first. Slowly. Carefully. She had counted money her whole life under pressure. Rent money. Grocery money. Prescription money. Tips in a bathroom stall because she did not trust crying near the register. Counting had become a way to stay alive. Then she checked the amount on the business check. It was correct. She looked at Dante. It is all here. Dante nodded once. Then his attention returned to Grant. You will remove every complaint you created after she refused to be alone with you. Grant's mouth opened. Dante continued. You will send written confirmation to her email before sunrise. You will copy Claire. Claire stood very still in the hallway. You will provide her final tax documents without delay. You will not contest unemployment if she files. You will not use the word theft in any room where her name is present. Grant's voice came thin. She is a contractor. Dante looked at him. Then you should have found a smarter word than paycheck. Grant went silent. Emily saw Claire's face shift in the hallway. Something like fear had been there before. Now something else joined it. Calculation, maybe. Or courage waking up late. Grant clasped his hands in front of him. "Of course," he said. "I just want this resolved." Dante stood. He buttoned his suit jacket with one slow movement. "No," he said. "You wanted her cornered." Grant's face flushed. Dante walked closer to the desk, not to Grant. To the space itself, taking from it the comfort Grant had built there. "You picked a woman with bills, a sick mother, and a brother in school because you thought need made her cheap." Emily felt her breath catch. Grant looked at her then. For the first time in months, he seemed to understand she had been seen by someone else. Not as staff. Not as a problem. Not as a body in an apron. As a person with a life he had used as leverage. Dante's voice lowered. "You mistook her silence for permission." Grant shook his head quickly. "No, that is not what this was." Dante's eyes sharpened. "Do not make me listen to you describe your own character." Grant stopped. Outside the office no one moved. Dante picked up his gloves from the desk. "If I hear her name from your mouth again in any context for any reason, we will have another conversation." Grant nodded. "Yes, absolutely. If a restaurant calls you about her, you say she worked hard and left professionally." "Yes." "If staff ask what happened tonight, you say you paid a debt." Grant's lips parted. Dante waited. Grant swallowed. "I paid a debt." Dante looked at him a moment longer. "Good." Then he turned to Emily. The change in him was subtle but immediate. The hard stillness did not vanish, but it moved back from the edge of his eyes. "Do you have everything you need from this room?" Emily looked around. The desk, the lamp, the safe still half open, the folder of lies. Grant standing beside his own chair like he no longer trusted it to hold him. She thought about the 5 months of trying to make herself smaller in rooms like this, trying to speak clearly enough to be believed but not loudly enough to be punished, trying to gather proof while the damage kept happening faster than paper could hold it. Her gaze returned to Dante. "Yes, then walk out." He did not say, "Come with me." He did not reach for her. He gave her the action and left the choice in her hands. Emily stepped toward the door. Grant shifted as if to speak. Dante did not even look at him. "Careful." One word. Grant stayed silent. Emily crossed the threshold. The hallway was full of faces pretending not to be full of faces. Claire stood closest, tablet clutched to her chest. Her eyes were red, though Emily could not tell if from fear or shame. Rosa stood near the bar entrance, both hands at her sides, the polished glass forgotten on the counter behind her. Marlene stood with her arms folded, expression steady, but her eyes shone. Manny leaned in the kitchen doorway, jaw set. No one spoke. Emily walked past them. Not fast. She refused to run from a room she had survived. The dining room opened before her, dim and golden tables, half-reset candles, snuffed chairs turned upside down in neat rows. The 2 remaining guests at the bar sat frozen over unfinished drinks, their eyes following Dante as he came out behind Emily. Dante did not acknowledge the attention. Luca and Nico moved with him, quiet and exact. At the server station, Emily stopped. Her apron strings felt suddenly too tight. She untied them. The fabric loosened around her waist. Rosa's breath caught softly. Emily folded the apron once, then again. Cleanly. Carefully. The way she folded things when she needed her hands to understand what her heart had not yet caught up to. She placed it on the server station. Grant appeared at the hallway entrance behind them, pale in the low light. Emily did not look back at him. Marlene stepped forward. For a moment, Emily thought she might speak. Instead, Marlene reached out and touched 2 fingers lightly to Emily's wrist. It was not a goodbye. It was recognition. Emily nodded once. Then she kept walking. At the front of the Silver Lark, the host stood beside the door, face drained of all professional polish. Outside, through the glass, 3 black Cadillac Escalades waited at the curb engines, running their dark bodies shining under streetlights and rain. Dante reached the door first. He opened it. Then he stepped aside. Emily looked at him. He held her gaze quiet and unreadable. The gesture was simple. "You first." The cold Chicago night entered the restaurant. Emily stepped through the doorway with the envelope in her hand, and the city air hitting her face like water after a fever. Behind her, the Silver Lark remained silent. Not peaceful. Silent. Dante followed her out, and the door closed softly on the amber light, the polished wood, the empty threats, and the man who had laughed until the wrong voice answered. Outside, Chicago felt colder than it had an hour ago. The rain had stopped, but the streets still shone beneath the lights. Taxis slid past with wet tires whispering over the pavement. Steam rose from a grate near the curb and twisted around the black Escalades waiting in front of the Silver Lark. The restaurant windows glowed behind Emily, warm and golden beautiful in the way dangerous things sometimes were from a distance. She stood on the sidewalk with the envelope in her hand. For several seconds she did not move. No one rushed her. That was the first thing she noticed. Dante stood a few feet away, his coat back over his shoulders, his gloves still in one hand. Luca and Nico waited near the vehicles, watching the street rather than her. They gave her space without making a show of it. The host remained visible through the glass behind her, frozen near the stand. Rosa stood farther back in the dim dining room, one hand over her mouth. Marlene was beside her, still and straight. Emily looked down at the envelope. The money was real. Her fingers tightened around it, but what moved through her was not joy. Joy was too bright a word for a thing this heavy. It was not triumph either. Triumph sounded like winning, and Emily did not feel like she had won. She felt like someone had finally returned something that should never have been stolen, and her body was still deciding whether to believe it. Dante watched her carefully. Not the envelope, her. "You should not go home alone tonight," he said. Emily looked up. His voice was quiet, almost gentle, but not soft in the ordinary way. It was the voice of a man used to giving orders who had chosen not to make this one sound like one. "I can get home," she said. "I did not say you could not." That made her pause. A bus groaned past on the far side of the street. Its windows were fogged. Inside, tired people leaned against glass, moving through the city in silence. Emily looked at the Escalades. "I do not want a ride from your men." Dante nodded once. "Then I will call you a car. I can call my own." "With what phone battery?" Emily blinked, then pulled out her phone. 3%. Of course he had noticed. Of course he had seen the dim screen when she slipped it into her pocket upstairs. Men like Dante did not survive by missing small things. She wanted to be annoyed. Instead, she was tired. "I am not helpless," she said. "No." His answer came too quickly to be polite. She looked at him. Dante held her gaze. "You are exhausted. There is a difference." The words entered more quietly than comfort usually did. Emily looked away first. Across the street, a man in a Cubs jacket hurried through the crosswalk with a paper bag held under his coat. Somewhere above them, a train rattled across the tracks, metal screaming against metal, loud enough to make the night feel briefly less intimate. Emily drew a breath. "I did not want to call you. I know." She expected offense. Maybe amusement. Maybe the little pride men carried when they thought a woman should be grateful for being rescued. Dante gave her none of that. He stood beside the curb, rain shining on the shoulders of his coat, and waited, as if her honesty belonged in the air between them. Emily looked at the envelope again. "I carried that card for 31 days. I know." Her eyes lifted sharply. Dante's expression did not change. "Rosa talks," Emily said. "No," he said. "Your face did." She stared at him. Something almost like a smile touched his mouth, then disappeared. "The first night you looked at the card like it was a knife," he said. "Tonight you used it like a key." Emily swallowed. A key to what? Dante looked toward the Silver Lark. Through the window, Grant was visible for half a second in the back hallway before he disappeared into shadow. He looked smaller through glass. "To a door," Dante said. "That is all it was." Emily laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "Nothing about you is that simple." "No," he said, "but the offer was." The traffic light at the corner changed from red to green. Cars moved forward in a low rush of water and engines. Emily turned the envelope in her hands. "I do not want to owe you." "Good." She looked at him again. Dante slipped his gloves into his coat pocket. Debt makes people careless. Gratitude can do the same. That sounds like something a man says right before asking for something. His eyes sharpened not with anger, interest. "What do you think I want?" Emily held his gaze longer this time. "I do not know. That is why I am standing here instead of getting in your car." For the first time, Dante smiled fully. It was small, brief, and dangerous because it changed his face in a way she had not prepared for. The hard lines stayed, but something warmer moved under them. Something human and controlled. "Smart woman," he said. "I am trying to be. You are succeeding." The compliment landed too close. Emily looked down the street. A black sedan pulled up behind the Escalades. Dante had not touched his phone. Luca must have made the call without being told, or perhaps he had been told with a glance Emily missed. Dante stepped towards the sedan and opened the rear door. Emily did not move. He looked back. "No one from my crew is driving. The plate is registered to the service. The driver's name is Marcus. I will send Rosa the number before you leave." Emily stared at him. "You thought of everything." "No." His voice was lower now. "I thought of enough." That was the problem with Dante Russo. He did not make kindness look harmless. He made it look disciplined, intentional. More frightening than charm because it asked for nothing and still changed the air around her. Emily walked to the car but stopped before getting in. "My mother lives in Little Italy. I need to stop there first." Dante nodded. "Give Marcus the address." Emily hesitated. Then she said thank you. Dante's eyes stayed on hers. "You carried it alone for a long time." Her throat tightened. "Do not make me cry on a public sidewalk." "I would not dare." The corner of his mouth shifted again. Emily got into the car. Before Dante closed the door, she looked up at him. "Mr. Russo." "Dante." The correction was immediate quiet, familiar from the night he left the card. Emily let the name sit on her tongue before speaking. "Dante." His gaze steadied. "I am still going to decide what happens next." He inclined his head once. "As you should." Then he closed the door. The car pulled away from the Silver Lark with Emily in the back seat, the envelope on her lap, and her reflection faint in the dark window beside her. Behind the glass, Dante stood on the curb until the sedan turned the corner. Only then did he move. Linda Parker opened her apartment door in slippers, and a faded blue robe hair pinned badly on one side, face lined with sleep and worry. The moment she saw Emily, she knew not to ask the small questions first. She stepped aside. Emily entered. The apartment smelled like canned tomato soup, lavender cleaner, and the old vanilla candle Linda kept burning, even when there was barely any wick left. A sitcom played quietly on the television with the sound almost muted. On the coffee table sat a pill organizer, a folded blanket, and a photograph of Emily's father holding Noah as a baby. Linda closed the door. What happened? Emily stood in the middle of the living room with the envelope in her hand. For a second, she was 20 again, then 17, then 12, all the younger versions of herself who had learned to come home and say she was fine before anyone could worry. The word rose automatically. Fine. She stopped it. "He was not paying me," Emily said. "Grant. He was holding my wages. He was threatening me." Linda's face changed, but she did not interrupt. Emily looked at the envelope. "I got the money back." Linda's eyes moved to the envelope, then back to her daughter. "How?" Emily breathed in slowly. "I called someone." Linda sat down on the edge of the couch as if her knees had lost interest in standing. "Someone safe." Emily thought about the black cars, the quiet men, Dante's voice on speaker, Grant's face when the name landed, the way Dante opened the restaurant door and stepped aside. "I do not know if safe is the right word," she said. "But he did not hurt me." Linda absorbed that with a mother's terrible patience. Then she opened her arms. Emily did not mean to move quickly. She did anyway. The envelope fell onto the couch between them as she bent into her mother's embrace. Linda held her like Emily was still small enough to fit fully against her, one hand at the back of her head, the other pressed between her shoulder blades. Emily did not cry loudly. That was not her way. Her body shook once, then again, and her mother held on through all of it. "You should have told me," Linda whispered. "I did not want you scared. I was already scared. I just did not know the shape of it." Emily closed her eyes. "I thought I could handle it." Linda kissed the side of her head. "You did handle it, baby. You got out of that room." Emily stayed there until her breathing steadied. Then Linda made soup from the can with more ceremony than canned soup deserved. She added pepper toast, a little cheese she had been saving. Emily sat at the small kitchen table and ate because her mother watched her like eating was a medical instruction. At 2 in the morning, Emily slept on Linda's couch under the folded blanket from the coffee table. For the first time in months, she did not dream about work. The next morning, sunlight entered through Linda's thin curtains and painted the apartment in weak gold. Emily woke with a stiff neck and a strange stillness inside her. Her phone was charged on the side table. Beside it sat Dante's card. She did not remember taking it out of her apron pocket, but there it was, black against the pale wood. Linda was in the kitchen making coffee. "You have 3 missed calls," she said. Emily sat up. Grant. Claire. Unknown number. No message from Grant. 1 from Claire. "Emily, please call me as soon as you can. We need to discuss documentation and your final compensation." Emily listened twice. Claire's voice sounded different. Smaller, less polished. The unknown number had left a message, too. Emily played it. A woman's voice, calm and professional. "Miss Parker, my name is Natalie Cross. I oversee operations for Bellwether House in the West Loop. Mr. Russo mentioned you may be interested in a front-of-house management position. This is not a favor and not an obligation. If you would like to speak, call me at this number." Emily stared at the phone. Linda placed coffee in front of her. "Who is Mr. Russo?" Emily picked up the mug with both hands. "A door," she said. Linda raised an eyebrow. Emily almost smiled. "It is complicated. Most men are. This one more than most." Linda sat across from her. "Do you trust him?" Emily looked at the black card. "Number?" Linda waited. Emily continued. "But I trust that he means what he says." Linda nodded slowly. "That is a start." Not a finish. Emily held the warm mug and let that settle. At 8:40, she went home, showered, dressed in black slacks and a white blouse, and wrote her resignation letter at the kitchen table. She kept it brief, professional, no accusation, no explanation. She wrote that she was giving 2 weeks' notice. She wrote her final date. She thanked the Silver Lark for the opportunity. The words were clean enough to survive being read by anyone. That mattered. Grant had taken enough from her. He would not take the manner of her leaving. She printed the letter at the public library on Halstead, where the printer jammed twice, and an elderly man beside her muttered curses at a computer that had offended him personally. The normality of it almost made her laugh. Less than 12 hours ago, Dante Russo had walked into Grant's office and made a powerful man count stolen wages with shaking hands. Now, Emily was paying 20 cents per page to print a resignation letter under fluorescent lights. Life did not know how to honor a dramatic moment. It simply kept going. At 9:15, she walked into the Silver Lark. The lunch staff had not arrived yet. The dining room smelled of lemon polish and cold coffee. Claire was at the host stand, tablet in hand, eyes shadowed. When she saw Emily, she froze. Emily handed her the letter. "I am giving notice." Claire looked down at the page. Her throat moved. "Emily, about last night?" "No." Claire looked up. Emily's voice was calm. "I am not having that conversation in the doorway of the place where it happened." Claire's eyes filled, but the tears did not fall. "I'm sorry." Emily studied her. There had been a time when she wanted that apology like oxygen. Now it arrived late, and she found she could breathe without it. "I believe you," Emily said, "but I am not carrying it for you." Claire flinched. Emily softened by 1 degree. "Send the confirmation Dante requested." "Send my tax documents. Put everything in writing." Claire nodded quickly. "I already started." "Good." Emily turned to leave. Claire said Grant is in his office. Emily looked toward the back hallway. The door was closed. For months, that closed door had felt like the mouth of something waiting to swallow her. Now, it looked like wood and hinges. Then he can stay there, Emily said. She worked her notice because she chose to. That was what she told Rosa when Rosa called her crazy. It was what she told Marlene when Marlene asked if she was sure. It was what she told Noah when he offered to come stand outside the restaurant every night like one skinny community college student could fight the whole city with a backpack full of anatomy notes. I am not running, Emily told him. Noah was quiet on the phone. I hate that you think leaving fast would be running. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, holding the phone to her ear. So do I. Then why go back? Emily looked at the folded apron on her chair. Because I want my last memory of that place to be me walking out when I decide. Noah sighed. You are stubborn. Yes. Dad would have called it principled. Emily's chest tightened. He called a lot of bad ideas principled when I was the one having them. Noah laughed. It helped. The next 2 weeks were strange. Grant did not come onto the floor during her shifts. Not once. His office door remained closed. Sometimes Emily heard his voice through it lower than before, clipped and tense. Sometimes men in suits came and went, men she recognized from investor dinners who no longer looked around the Silver Lark with satisfaction. They looked at corners, ledgers, staff faces. Claire became suddenly careful with documents. Payroll confirmations arrived by email. The complaints in Emily's file were marked removed. Her final pay schedule appeared in writing. Her contractor documents were attached twice, as if Claire feared one copy might vanish. Rosa read the email over Emily's shoulder near the bar. Well, look at that, Rosa said. The system learned how to type. Emily smiled despite herself. Marlene gave a statement 3 days later. She did not tell Emily until after. They were in the staff room, both changing out of aprons. Marlene folded hers slowly. Claire asked if I had witnessed retaliation. Emily looked over, and Marlene placed the folded apron in her locker. I told her yes. Emily went still. Marlene, she asked. You did not have to. Marlene shut the locker. Yes, she said. I did. Emily did not know what to say. Marlene looked at her with tired, steady eyes. Katie called me yesterday. The name moved through the room like a ghost, opening its eyes. How? I found her number in an old phone. Told her things were changing here. She cried for 10 minutes before she said a word. Emily sat down on the bench. What happens now? Marlene leaned against the lockers. Maybe nothing clean. Maybe not enough. But Claire is turning over emails. Rosa knows 3 bartenders with stories. Manny heard more than he ever admitted. The investors are asking why payroll deductions look like a drunk man invented policy. Emily stared at the floor. She expected triumph again. Again, it did not come. What came instead was a slow ache. Not for Grant. Never for Grant. For all the women who had needed one person to say yes, I saw it too, and had received silence instead. Marlene sat beside her. You did not cause this, she said. Emily gave a faint smile. You sound like Denise the attorney. Then Denise is smart. She also cost money. Most smart people do. Emily laughed softly. Marlene touched her shoulder, brief and careful. Take the new job if it is good. Emily looked at her. Rosa talks too much. Rosa keeps us alive. That was true. Bellwether House called again on Emily's 5th day of notice. Natalie Cross did not sound like someone impressed by Mafia Romance powerful men or dramatic rescues. She sounded like a woman with a schedule, a budget, and no patience for nonsense. Mr. Russo recommended you, Natalie said. That gets you a conversation. It does not get you a job. Emily stood in her kitchen with the phone pressed to her ear. Good. There was a pause. Then Natalie said, I like that answer. Emily almost smiled. Natalie scheduled an interview for the following Monday at 10. Bellwether House sat in the West Loop, tucked behind a discreet black awning on a street lined with brick buildings and restaurants that looked closed until you knew which door to open. It was smaller than the Silver Lark, warmer, less eager to impress. The dining room had deep green booths, low brass lamps, framed black and white photographs of old Chicago, and a bar that looked like it had heard every secret in the city and kept most of them. Natalie met Emily at the host stand. She was in her 40s, black tall with close-cropped hair and a navy blazer sharp enough to cut excuses in half. "You are early," Natalie said. 10 minutes. Early is early. Emily liked her immediately. The interview lasted an hour. Natalie asked about conflict, food allergies, staff management, dealing with drunk guests, reservation failures, kitchen delays, private event flow. Emily answered from experience, not theory. She described how to calm a table without rewarding bad behavior, how to protect a server from a guest who had crossed a line, how to keep the kitchen from collapsing under front of the house panic. Natalie listened. At the end, she closed the folder in front of her. "You are qualified." Emily waited. Natalie leaned back. "You are also coming from a bad situation." Emily kept her face steady. "Yes, I am not interested in hiring someone who feels indebted to my owner. Neither am I." Natalie's eyes sharpened. "Say more." Emily folded her hands in her lap. "If this position is real, I am interested. If I am here because Dante Russo feels responsible, I am not." Natalie was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. Small, approving. "The position is real. Dante owns part of this building, part of the group, and occasionally appears when something needs to be solved with less talking than I prefer. He does not run my floor." Emily breathed a little easier. Natalie noticed that too. "I will offer you a trial shift Friday night. Paid. You shadow me first hour, then take sections of the floor under supervision. If you are good, we talk salary. If you are not, we shake hands and part clean." Emily nodded. "That works." At the door, Natalie stopped her. "One more thing." Emily turned. "Dante is not harmless," Natalie said. "I know, but he is particular." Emily waited. Natalie chose her words carefully. "He does not collect people who ask not to be collected." Emily did not answer. Natalie opened the door. Friday at 5. Emily left Bellwether House with the strange sensation of having been tested and respected in the same hour. Her final shift at the Silver Lark arrived quietly. No thunder. No dramatic confrontation. No Grant waiting in the office with one last threat. He remained unseen, which suited her fine. The kitchen made her dinner. Not officially. Not with speeches. Manny simply placed a plate at the pass near the end of the night and said, "Eat." It was roast chicken with crispy potatoes and greens and garlic butter. Actual food, hot, made with care. Emily stared at it. Manny did not look at her. Food dies in the window. She sat on a stool and ate while the kitchen closed around her. Pans clanged. Water ran. Someone cursed at a stuck drawer. Rosa leaned against the counter with a glass of club soda. Marlene stood nearby, arms folded. No one made it sentimental. That made it worse. When Emily finished, Manny took the empty plate. "You were good here," he said. Emily swallowed. "Thank you." He shrugged like he had not just handed her something precious. Facts are facts. At 11:40, Emily clocked out for the last time. The same time the office door had closed behind her 2 weeks earlier. She changed in the staff room and folded her apron slowly. This time, she did not leave it behind. She placed it in her bag. Some things were not souvenirs because they were happy. Some things were evidence that you had crossed a fire and come out carrying your own name. Rosa hugged her at the back door. Hard. "You call me when Bellwether makes you rich and unbearable. I'm already unbearable. Rich then." Marlene hugged her next, shorter but tighter. "Keep copies," she whispered. Emily smiled. "Always." Then she walked out. She did not look toward Grant's office. Friday night at Bellwether House was controlled chaos. Emily loved it immediately. The kitchen moved fast but did not scream. Servers asked questions without being mocked. Natalie corrected people directly and then moved on, leaving no poison behind. When a guest at table 14 put his hand around a young waitress's wrist, Emily saw it from across the room before the waitress could decide whether to laugh it off. Emily was there in 6 steps. "Sir," she said calmly, "you need to let go of my server." The man blinked offended. "We were joking." Emily looked at his hand. He released the waitress. Emily smiled, but there was nothing soft in it. "Good, now the joke is over." Natalie watched from the host stand. So did Dante Russo, seated alone at the end of the bar. Emily had not known he was there. For 1 second their eyes met. He gave no sign of approval. No nod, no smile. Nothing that would make the moment about him. He simply looked away first. Emily returned to the floor. At the end of the night, Natalie offered her the job. The salary was more than Emily expected. Enough to pay rent without negotiation. Enough to help Linda without panic. Enough for Noah's tuition to stop sounding like a threat. Emily asked for the offer in writing. Natalie smiled. "I would have been disappointed if you did not." Dante was still at the bar when Emily finished. The room was nearly empty. Staff moved through closing tasks with the easy fatigue of people who had worked hard without being hunted. Emily walked toward him. "You knew I was here tonight." Dante turned his glass slowly between his fingers. It held water, not whiskey. "I own part of the place." "That is not an answer." "No," he said. "It is a fact placed near one." Emily almost smiled. "I got the job." "I heard. You did not tell Natalie to give it to me." Dante looked at her. "If I had, she would have told me to run the floor myself and see how long I survived." Emily laughed before she could stop herself. The sound surprised both of them. Dante's expression warmed. Only slightly. But enough. Emily leaned against the bar, leaving a careful distance. "I am still not sure what to do with you." His eyes held hers. "You do not have to do anything with me." "That sounds too easy." "It is not easy," he said. "It is simple." Emily looked around Bellwether House. The low lights, the clean tables, the young waitress laughing softly near the server station, wrist free, shoulders loose. Natalie reviewing receipts with a pencil behind one ear. The city beyond the window, dark and wet, and still asking for more than most people could give. Then she looked back at Dante. "Coffee," she said. His brow lifted. "Coffee. Sometime. Somewhere that is not yours." A slow smile touched his mouth. Neutral ground. "Exactly. When?" Emily picked up her coat from the back of a nearby chair. "I will decide." Dante's smile deepened by one dangerous degree. "I would expect nothing less." 3 months later, snow fell over Chicago in soft, quiet sheets. Bellwether House glowed against the winter dark, every window warm, every table full. Emily stood at the host stand in a tailored black blazer, hair pinned neatly, lipstick still intact despite 6 hours of service. A headset rested at one ear. A reservation book lay open beneath her hand. Across the dining room, the young waitress from Emily's trial shift approached, nervous but trying to hide it. Emily saw the expression before the girl spoke. "What happened?" The waitress glanced toward a man at the bar. "He keeps asking when I get off." Emily looked over. The man smiled. Emily did not. "Take table 8's dessert order," she said. "I'll handle him." The waitress exhaled. "Thank you." Emily walked to the bar. The man turned as she approached, still wearing the smile of someone who thought discomfort was a game he was winning. "Can I help you?" he asked. Emily stood between him and the path her server had taken. "Yes," she said. "You can close your tab." His smile faded. "I didn't do anything." Emily held his gaze. "Then leaving should be easy." At the far end of the bar, Dante Russo sat with a cup of black coffee in front of him. He said nothing. Emily did not need him to. The man paid and left, muttering into his coat. Emily watched until he was outside and moving down the block. Then she returned to the host stand. Her phone buzzed beneath the reservation book. A message from Dante. "Coffee after close. Your place of choice." Emily looked toward the bar. Dante lifted his cup slightly, not quite a toast. She typed back. "The diner on Ashland. Cash only. Bad lighting. Good pie." His reply came fast. "I will survive." Emily smiled and slipped the phone away. Outside, snow gathered along the curb, softening the hard edges of the street. Inside Bellwether House moved around her with warmth and noise and work that belonged to itself. Plates passed through careful hands. Guests laughed. Servers called table numbers. Natalie corrected a reservation error with surgical calm. Emily stood at the center of it, steady, not untouched, not unafraid of anything ever again. Just steady. Her life had not become simple. Her mother still had appointments. Noah still sent dramatic texts about exams. Bills still arrived. Chicago still charged interest on every mistake. But when Emily looked toward a closed door now, she no longer saw a cage first. She saw a handle, and she knew exactly when to open it.